Hello everybody, my name is Mike Richard, I'm the founder of Talk About It Mate, and I'm sat here today happy to present to you the start of Season 2 of the Talk About It Mate podcast. What have you got to look forward to? Well, we'll see what happens, but I'm hoping more contributors, more guests, more co-presenters, different episode types and styles, new guests, even video content. But yeah, if I look back, I'm really proud of what we've achieved. Season 1 was a massive triumph. I'm a complete novice, but I got it done, and I keep thinking to myself, done is better than perfect. The content is out there. You know, I can always look back on it, learn from those conversations and see how much I've changed as well. And a lot of the people involved I already knew, or they're from the community. Some people I didn't know that well, and they've become good friends since. And I think that's really important. It's important that, you know, I do remind myself how far I've come and how much this could potentially help people and how much it already has helped people. So Season 1 was a great adventure. It was full of courage, compassion and connection. So I really hope that you enjoy the upcoming Season 2. Season 2, Episode 1, here we are. My guest for this episode was the amazing Alice Lyons, who runs Dark Coffee. She's a successful podcaster, and she uses podcasting to record her own experiences. And the kind of tagline of her organisation is championing unfiltered conversations around mental health. And I think that's really important. Now she's moving into corporate training and also running events for entrepreneurs or people in the business community. But I just find her a really engaging person with a really powerful message. She does touch on something called suicidal ideation, and this could be a big scary topic, but I think that she tackles these things in a really careful and considerate yet authentic way. And you know, I love her enthusiasm. She's somebody that I value a lot in my network and I can go to for advice. So I really hope that you enjoy Episode 1 of Season 2 of the Talk About It Mate podcast.
There we go, that'll be enough.
Okay, hello everybody, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Talk About It Mate podcast. Reinvention, which might be a theme that comes through today's conversation. And we've got a really good guest, somebody I know.
Thanks.
Alice Lyons.
Hey.
AKA Dark Coffee.
Yes.
which we'll come on to. Tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into this.
Yeah, this is so weird, like me not doing the introduction. This is so weird. I'm having to relinquish control. So hi everyone, my name's Alice Lyons. I do a podcast called Dark Coffee, and we basically champion unfiltered conversations around mental health. So very similar vein to yourself, Mike. But yeah, we're just very bullshit free. We kind of say things like it is, because I think there's a lot of noise in mental health for good and bad reasons. Yeah. But my thing is, mental health is just such a normal thing, and everyone's affected by it, whether they realise and acknowledge it or not. Yeah. And I'm just kind of bored of hearing all the to me there seems to be a bit of a dichotomy in the way that people talk about mental health. It's either softly and like, oh, you'll be okay, don't worry, or it's really aggressive and it's hyper like masculine and like, we will fight mental health and blah blah blah. And I'm like, why do you want that aggressive kind of thing going on in your own mind? You're just making an enemy out of your own brain. So I've just said, let's just talk about it like everything else in life. If you're scared of something, use a bit of humour, take the edge off of it. Yeah, agree. As with all the big scary topics. Mine's quite, it's a little bit controversial in some ways because I talk about suicide ideation quite a lot because that's my personal background. Yeah. But I thought if you're going to go big, you know, if you're going to do something, do it properly. So, I started by talking about suicide ideation, but it's really interesting because the more I've talked around mental health, the more avenues I've gone down, the more people's inputs I've got, and the more lines of convergence there are with like other conditions and just like issues in society. Like it intersects with so many issues of like gender and I don't know, all sorts of things, power structures, and just it's the most interesting job in the world and I love it. And but the wider company does other things. We have a corporate arm that goes into corporates. We do talks and workshops and stuff, and we've got a community arm that does events especially in the business community, and lots of weird and wonderful things. I love how enthused you are. I like to comment on people's body language, but I think what you're saying about mental health, it's the topic of our times, isn't it, really? Absolutely. Now, like,
it comes up every time in the media something happens, but I think the curve is that people are taking more of an interest in who they are as people in their minds now. And I think, like you say, sometimes you need people who, not aggressive, but are going to go where other people won't go. Yeah. And people do need to acknowledge that it is something that needs talking about, and that's why we exist, I suppose, as organisations. But last time I came on your podcast, the Dark Coffee podcast, you asked me what my favourite quote was.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm going to get you back now. But no, because I used to roll my eyes at quotes. But then recently, the ones that really stand out to me, I think there is a lot of gold in there.
Absolutely. And I think you have different ones that you attach different meanings to at different times. So particular moments you're drawn to different ones, aren't you? Off the top of my head, a few that I always return to are walk towards the sound of gunfire.
Nice.
Which is hyper aggressive and kind of militant. That I don't know, I just like that idea of doing something not because it's the easiest thing to do or because it's necessarily the most sensible thing to do, but because it's the right thing to do. So although it sounds stupid on the face of it, like walking towards gunfire, it could be that you can help someone that really needs help. So, that one just...
Yeah, about courage and following your convictions. And
that's it.
I think that comes across in especially the way that you communicate on your podcast and also online, which we'll come on to. Because I think it's really interesting, and I think I'm quite a cynical person. I used to be historically.
Yeah.
And now I'm happy. No. But when you see people cutting through the crap, I think we waste too much time playing niceties. Does that make sense?
It definitely does, and I think you can do both as well. I'm a massively compassionate person. I'm one of the nicest people you'll meet, but I think people maybe don't expect that. Sometimes when they see some of my marketing, they're like, oh my god, she's a bit in your face and stuff, but within a few minutes people get to know me and they're like, okay, she genuinely does really care about people. And I will never say anything to upset someone intentionally.
No.
Or it's more, I don't necessarily call out individuals necessarily. I more challenge ideas and structures and things. So if I think MLMs, historically I hate MLMs. So
what's an MLM?
Multi-level marketing, like pyramid schemes.
Right. Right, yeah.
So they make money basically off of exploiting people who are in desperate situations and need extra cash, and they're like, oh, come and buy this starter kit for £5,000.
People have been calling out on that.
Yeah, they do. So I've done it. And I'm not calling out the individuals, because often the individuals within the MLM are kind of disillusioned a little bit themselves. This is all my personal opinion, obviously, it's very one-sided. I'm not necessarily calling out the individuals, it's more the structure itself, and I'm like, I just disagree with the way they make money. I find it really sinister. And Arbonne recently have they've just won this accreditation. I think it's called B Corp. It's an accreditation to show that you're a very ethical company, that you're well run, and I really need to drill down into this because I'm fascinated. I'm like, how is that possible? Because my understanding is that it's very exploitative. So just putting it out there, I could be wrong. I may need to do more research, but of all the research I've done, and I have done a lot, I just hate them. So I don't want this to turn too much into...
No, but for me, I'm learning from you, and I think the world of corporate is something I don't know very much about. I mean, I've worked in vocational and teaching, and then I'm dipping my toes into being a social enterprise, and I'm going on these courses, and a big part of what I've had to do is set up on different platforms, including LinkedIn, and that's kind of where you've come to the fore, and a lot of people you work with here.
Yeah,
so maybe that's a good way in to talk about what you're doing here at Natwest Accelerator.
Yeah, so we're in the Natwest Accelerator. So I've been on this for coming up to 11 months now, actually. So you come on 6-month chunks. It's a fully funded accelerator scheme. So accelerators are designed to support your business in your next step of growth.
Yeah.
So this has been great because I get there's 3 arms to it. So there's coaching arm, there's the community arm, kind of the workspace, and what's the other thing? The network, the wider network, because they can introduce you to people that they know out in the ether and stuff like that.
I love that word, ether.
Ether, out in the ether. It sounds like it's so magical, doesn't it? So they do things like workshops and training. So every other week there's a workshop or there's some kind of training that's on a particular theme. So we have a sales one, infrastructure, etc. Yeah. And for me, the biggest thing has been this co-working space and just coming in and being able to talk to other people, bounce ideas around, support them, have them support me, get that kind of the peer support. Me and you were both huge on this. We both talk about this a lot, and that's what we're promoting effectively is emotional and social well-being and helping each other grow. And fully recommend this to yourself and any other you know, especially if you're a small business, because I don't think a lot of people realise how isolated they are.
Oh, I found that last 6 months. I mean, I rushed into doing it. Not rushed into it, but
yeah, I did time.
Too. But then, like, you're thinking, and then you're at home, and then you're thinking, I can't talk to everyone, and my wife will come home and like, I can't just offload all this onto her, because then she just sees me as this guy who moans about. Yeah. But you know,
I'm glad you picked up on that, because I think so many people make their spouse the one point of contact. Yeah. And what a lot of us don't understand is that we need a very diverse and complex social support system. Yeah. And you cannot just have one go-to person. I talk about this in my training as well. I say, do not make one person responsible for your well-being, because you are responsible for your well-being. It's no one else's job. And part of your job of looking after yourself is to figure out who you can go to at different times. So you're building a really robust support network, so that if you call that person, they're not available, who's the next person you go to? Who do you talk to about money problems? Who do you talk to about family problems? Yeah. If you're having difficulties in your marriage, is that a job for a professional? Is that something you just handle between yourselves? Is that something that you have a couple of confidants you can talk to? Because what I've discovered is the more perspectives you have on a problem, often the quicker it's resolved, because we are not, just because we run a business doesn't mean we know all the answers.
No, I'm asking people things on a daily basis, and
that's the best thing to do.
But I think that the theme that's come through what you've just said is talking. Yeah. And if you talk, if you hold on to a problem, and you don't know how to solve that problem, or you're not sure about it, then you're probably not going to do something about it. Absolutely. And I think a lot of men might be like this. Then it's just going to get worse, isn't it?
Absolutely, because like things get so much worse in your head, because our minds are incredible. They're very, very switched on, and just there's so much chemistry going on in there, and things happen so much quicker in your brain than they do in real life. So if you let things run in your brain, it will just it's like a wildfire. It really does just ignite, and you can blow things out of proportion, and your brain doesn't seem to know the difference between the imagined and the real, so things can just run away with you. And I think that's why a lot of mental health issues get so much worse, because you just convince yourself that what you're thinking is real. Whereas if you take the time to just say something out loud, externalize it, you're bringing it into the real world, and suddenly you'll start questioning it, and you'll say, well, that sounds mad, now I've said it out loud, that's not true. And it makes it so much easier. Like I started podcasting as self-therapy, really. I was obviously doing it for other people as well, but I was working through my own shit, and I still do it now. If I'm having a bad day or something, I just want to kind of understand my feelings a bit more, I'll start talking. I'll put the podcast mic on, I'll start talking, and even if I don't have the podcast mic, I'll just do a sound note on my phone and a voice memo, and as I'm talking I'll be like, oh well, I don't think that's true, and maybe that's not true as well, because you speak slower than you think. So your thinking mind goes, blah, blah, blah.
And I speak fast, so how fast do I think?
Yeah, it's it's like a bullet train, seriously. It's amazing. But when you talk, your brain has to slow down to think about the sentence structure and how you would convey it in a sensible string of words.
Absolutely.
So I find it's a really good... I encourage people to do it if you've never tried it. Even if you're just in a room on your own, it doesn't matter if people think you're mental. I do it in my car all the time. If I'm driving, I find it really good headspace.
Just recording and voice note.
Yeah, because I have my sat-nav on the dashboard, so I'll just because I don't want to play with my phone, obviously. So I tell Siri to take a voice memo, and then I'll just start talking, just like stream of consciousness.
I like that, because I think there's something immediate about that as well, and authentic. Exactly. And when you're driving or something like that, you're focusing on, but sometimes you're not thinking too much. Your flow of consciousness. I can't find the right words, but I suppose with what the field you're in corporate and marketing, or this is your background, isn't it? Yeah, like that kind of idea of telling a story in an honest, unfiltered, authentic way. Makes you stand out from a lot of people. I don't know if you found that.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's really interesting feedback to get, because for me it wasn't like it was a strategy or anything. It was just the way it came out, and it was just the feel I wanted to go for, because I kind of noticed there was a hole where I wanted some content to be. I was like, I want someone to just talk about mental health like it's normal, because it is, and the more we act like it's this big scary thing that's like, oh, let's handle it with some kid gloves, the worse it's going to get to talk about. So
absolutely.
I was just creating the content that I wanted for myself, especially like my younger self, because I struggled a lot in my 20s, and there was just nothing out there that spoke to me.
Same here, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we create... A lot of business owners are the same. We see a problem, we fall in love with the problem, we're really passionate about resolving it, and then we'll do whatever we need to do.
Like what's missing from the market, or what's missing from the world. Be the change.
That's it, be the change you want to see in the world. Another of my favourite quotes.
Tick. Yeah. No, that's great, I think. And coming back to the LinkedIn thing, that was overly corporate. I said I probably joined it about 3 years ago and never looked at it. Then I went on a course with a guy... Adam Whitaker. He was like a social media guru guy. He's a really great guy actually, and he was like, get that up and running.
Yeah.
And I said, I do know a few people, and you and some of the people in your accelerator, you're very honest, and because corporate people talk in a certain way because you think that's the only way you have to speak to get business or leads, and then I don't really read them posts, but I read the ones where people are really honest and like.
Yeah, you're quite active on mine actually. I don't see your face popping up. Yeah, it's really interesting. So Lewis is on the accelerator with me as well. So he's a digital marketing sort of expert. So, he'd never call himself an expert, but he definitely is. Like he knows his shit. He's been doing it for years, and his approach has always been just be honest, be yourself. And he did it as kind of a marketing strategy. So he said, like, there's so many people that do what I do. I need to stand out, and I think. In his early career history, he kind of been a bit repressed and shouted down a bit by people. He was made to feel like he didn't know what he was talking about rather than stepping forward. Yeah. So I think it kind of, those two things combined just made him go, fuck it, I'm just going to be myself. So he is very open and honest in his posts that he does just by way of like self-promotion and personal branding. And so we just sit together on a table, so we just sort of naturally click together. So we run LinkedIn training now, the two of us. So my sort of angle is the content marketing side of things of like, how do you communicate effectively, whether it's video and doing it audibly or whether it's written content. That's kind of my strength. Yeah. And basically it's the same message from both of us. It's just delivered in two different ways, because actually when we're in person in a room, my approach is sometimes a bit more softly, and he's a bit more sort of like like shake people until they
as a guy, to see his stuff, I was like, wow, because he was just like, no apologies, like fuck off,
unapologetic. That's definitely it.
But I think you're a good duo. But I suppose to be successful and be working through your own stuff and to be open, for me, that I root for those people more. Instead of somebody who presents this perfect version of themselves, and we all do it at times, the Instagram, but like, but I'm putting a nice photo on there, but it isn't real life, is it? But it's great to see on LinkedIn that you guys are like growing, prosperous.
We are prosperous.
I'm trying to think of a good word here. Like, I'm definitely tired.
I think we're it's really nice because one of the things about businesses or any kind of collaboration, any kind of relationship overall, is that the collective effort is greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah. So he was kind of over in his corner doing his thing over here. I was doing my stuff over here, and then just the stuff that we do together, I think, is better again, and it's different from anything that we would have individually created. So I don't know if you've seen the Strategy Wars video series we started.
I've seen something. Yeah. It's quite good.
So basically, it's two marketers sat in a room arguing about different techniques you can use, because it's. With anything in business, there's no one size fits all. There's no correct way to do business in the same way as there's no correct way to do mental health. There's no, everything's different depending on the individual, and then day to day it will change how you look after yourself and stuff. So it's just nice to hear different viewpoints and just hear people talk about it openly. And there's a lot of bullshit out there that's like, here are 5 definite steps to success. And
that's the kind of stuff you're calling out, isn't it?
Yeah, because there is no one size fits all. There's no one correct way, and I'm sick of hearing this is how to be successful. 5 a.m. club is the only way.
Those people who say they do like stupid hour weeks.
Yeah, like 16-hour weeks and stuff like that. Well, that was the whole premise behind like Mind Over Grind, the event that I did, because it was just. I'm just so fatigued by seeing the hustle culture bullshit and people saying this is how you get to success. It's like, well, your version of success is different from my version of success for a start. Yeah. And there's a lot of posts on LinkedIn, especially like you're saying from the corporate community, just these very old narratives being regurgitated again and again of like,
it's not real, like for me.
It's not. Doesn't. And like it's weird because you get sucked into that way of thinking sometimes. Like I used to go to networking events, the very old stuffy BNI membership type ones.
Oh yeah.
And it's just not for me, and it took me a really long time to kind of realise. I was like, why do I feel really uncomfortable? Is it because I don't like waking up early? And I was like, oh no, it's because no one's actually having real conversations in this room.
I find it really difficult. I actually squirm in my chair, and like I'm getting better at doing things like little pitches to people, but ultimately there comes a time when you have to do it your own way. Yes. And I'm doing things my own way, and whether I do go into like training and well-being training, but I think I'll just do it in my own way. Yeah, because it's at least then you can be accountable to yourself and it doesn't run away from you. And
you'll never feel bad about any decisions you make. Yeah. Like one of my big things is I really believe in the value that comes from knowing what your values are. Yeah. So the more in tune with yourself you are, the more you know this is what I really deeply, passionately care about. Yeah. Your method can change. Absolutely. And your end goals can change, and you can pivot and and stuff like that. But if you know what your values are and what's really important to you, you never really go that far wrong. You won't make that many bad decisions. Or if you make a bad, in air quotes, a bad business decision, at least you'll know, well, I did it for the right reasons.
And it's part of learning and resilience and growth. And but you say hustle.
Yeah.
I suppose you're hustling in your own way. I'm hustling in my own way. I like that word. But
do.
this event, I did see it before I actually met you. I think Mind Over Grinding. I think I met you, and I didn't know it was something that you started. Cool. So tell us about where that came from and what's happened.
So I remember the origin story the other day actually, because it was the Brain Baby was a creation. So I was visiting a co-working space which is called Use Space, which is just on the other side of Piccadilly, outside of town. Really lovely owner there called David, who runs it, and I'd been introduced to him by another entrepreneur on this accelerator actually. So you see how all these connections form.
Yeah, absolutely. Connection.
Yeah, exactly. So I got introduced to David, and we were having a really nice chat because Rishi, the entrepreneur, was saying, oh, Alice runs this mental health consultancy, and David just kind of fell in love with the idea. He was really supportive. We were just chatting back and forth, and he was like, there's just so much similar thing, bullshit out there, and we want to create a really beautiful, it's really worth a look, by the way, if anyone's interested. It's a beautiful space, free parking, dogs, everything.
Wow.
It's lovely. And and he was saying like, oh, do you know what, if you fancy putting on an event, I really want to talk about mental health because we want to build a really supportive community here, and I want people to know that we're really passionate about it. So I was like, cool, let's do it. So he said, oh, do you want to host it? Do you want it to be your thing? I was like, sure, okay. Didn't tell him I'd never run an
just
event
say yes
life.
Just say yes.
Exactly. Never MC'd before, but I was like, talking is what I do for a living, so I should probably be okay at this. And then I said, oh, I want to get my friend involved. She's a coach, and she does a lot of presenting and stuff. And she does radio shows and things like this. She's called Carol Ann Reid. And I was like, she'll be brilliant. She'll be really like warm and engaging. People will love her. And Rishi said, oh, I know Vikas Shah. Do you know Vikas Shah?
I don't, but...
Lovely guy. Follow him on LinkedIn. He's brilliant. But he's a serial entrepreneur. He's been working since he was like 12 or something ridiculous. Tech genius, one of these types. MBE, all the things. He's a legend. I really like him. And he does a lot of speaking around mental health. He made a couple of suicide attempts, I believe. Was it 2? I think it's 2. But again, like really well-known speaker, gained a bit of clout, on the Eventbrite. And then we just launched it. So we did the first one at U Space, and it was brilliant. So it started a series of events that Dave did that kind of showcase, or they kind of put a spotlight on a particular theme. And I just absolutely loved it. And the feedback we got was incredible. It was a full house, and it was like the first time we did it. And people were just so engaged, and the Q&A kept going on, and people were bringing their own insights and knowledge to it. And I was like, shit, we need more of this. We need more of these spaces, because it's like a real life. It's the most engaged audience I ever get, because if you go into corporate, sometimes people don't want to be there. Sometimes there's a bit of a vibe in the room, so it can be a bit hit and miss. But as an atmosphere, these events have the most electric atmosphere. It really is like lightning in a bottle. It feels just like, it just makes me so proud to put it on. The second event, I kind of changed the format a little bit, so I got someone else to host it and MC, and then I was on the panel, but I didn't like that as much because I actually really like directing.
You're a good directing.
Thank you.
You would be good as an MC because you've got those skills. And
it's like the facilitation is quite it's tricky, and I enjoyed being on the panel because I enjoyed just talking at length, as you can tell. But I actually really like, because this is what I do, like the podcast and the coaching. It's all about you as a facilitator. What can you draw out of other people? That's where my biggest strength is. So this time we went back to that format. I got a bigger panel because the time before, the first time we did it, I was MC and answering questions as well, which was just messy, and my brain was everywhere. So this time I was like, right, we nailed the format. We got a really nice, another co-working space called Colony hosted for us.
Not heard of that one.
Really good, down by Piccadilly again, more central. But they hosted a beautiful venue. Just lovely people came, and again, sell out, and it was
brilliant.
Yeah, so I was buzzing for 2 days later, and I'm still like, oh my god, that was so good. It was
because you put yourself out there, you've shown the courage, and you've made those connections.
Yeah, and this was more like I was behind this, like I was really, really pushing it, promoting it and stuff. So it was just a real moment to be proud and be like, yeah, I created this thing. This is a really cool atmosphere.
Okay then. Well, so now you're at this point where you're feeling proud, which is really important. Be your own biggest cheerleader.
Definitely am.
So I'm going to take you back a bit. Like, what's your story? What moments do you think led you to this change? I suppose I want to use the word reinvention.
I like it. Yeah,
like,
cool.
what kind of led you to this point? Like, tell us a bit about that.
It's funny, you use the word reinvention. I used to use the word transformative a lot.
Nice.
Because I went through a couple of periods of really heavy transformation. So do you want like the abridged version of like the last 10 years? How far back are we going?
I think as you're a storyteller, what do you think, like, imagine if it's like a mental health audience of lots of different types of people, maybe not so much from a business point of view. What's formed you. Yeah, sure. But again, only if you're comfortable.
Absolutely, yeah, very comfortable. I'm just thinking like, what's the sensible way to chunk it down? So, okay, I'll tell the whole story briefly so that people can recognise themselves. Yeah. So, mental health for me, like my mental health deteriorated throughout my 20s. I was really miserable in college going into uni. So we're talking from like 18, 19. Yeah. So I always say I struggled with my health for like my 20s. It was just awful for the most part. So uni was horrible for me. I absolutely hated it. I didn't really acknowledge how much I hated it. I knew I had depression, but I didn't really know what to do about it. I'd sort of, social media was taken off. So I kind of had a few resources there, a few people were talking about things, but it was all very clinical. It was all about getting diagnosed and stuff. I had various interactions with doctors and I couldn't get a diagnosis because my depression comes and goes in waves, and it can be quite extreme when it's there, but when it's not, everything's fine, and I feel like a fraud, and I feel like, I shouldn't be going to a
that's something that's not been explored enough in people who have sort of a mental health problem.
I think one of the problems is that the parameters are so arbitrary and they're going to vary.
It's not black and white, is it?
Absolutely not. No, and no one can tell me I'm not depressed when I'm depressed. There is no fucking arguing with it. Like,
it's not just being in a low mood. It's a lot. Like,
it's like I'm looking at the top of buildings, thinking it'd be really nice to jump off those buildings. So I think it's been refreshing to be honest. Like that, though. Like you haven't done it. No.
Like, people out there who can get offended by that, but like that's your story and your life, and they can't stop you from saying that.
Yeah, exactly. It's my experience and it's my story, and the thing about suicide ideation is there's so little understanding around it, because people hear the word suicide and they picture the guy on the bridge about to jump, and it's not my experience at all. Like, I've never felt compelled to actually act on it. The closest I've got is being very, very highly depressed, driving at a time when I really shouldn't have been, and there was a few day period, I think it was about 4 days, I was like driving around the country, so I'd sort of run away effectively. I was sort of 23, 24 at this point, and I just remember crying, driving around, and just really seriously considering steering my car off the road at various points. And but through thinking it through and being like, oh God, what would the emergency services find? What would my mum say? I kind of thought it through to completion, and that kind of unwound it for me. But yeah, that was horrible, and that was the nearest I ever got to. I'd say even then it wouldn't have led to an attempt necessarily. It was still ideation. So ideation is the thinking process going from consideration through to very detailed planning. So it's a weird one, because I think people think you have to be a particular type of person to want to die, and it's not so much wanting to die. It's just being in a lot of pain and not knowing how to cope.
It makes some people feel uncomfortable. I can understand why.
Yeah, of course.
However, if you're not allowed to talk about that process which happened to you, how are you ever going to make sense of it? Sometimes you can, like you say, you think in your head. But with any kind of talking about any kind of problems with mental health, it doesn't have to be as serious as suicidal ideation. People just want to be listened to. So I've been saying this quite a lot recently. And you have the right to be listened to.
Absolutely. And that's how we get validation sometimes, is we say something and someone else goes, oh my God, me too, and then they feel better because they feel validated. Absolutely. And you feel better because you're understood. I was talking to Samaritans. I'm doing a documentary about suicide awareness and prevention and stuff. Ongoing project. It's been going forever, but it's in the works. And I spoke to Samaritans. I said, what is the connecting thread between all the people that call? Because they're going to have different socio-economic backgrounds. They're going to have different upbringings. Is there anything that connects them all? And he said, people just want some really fundamental things in life. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be understood. And I think that's so beautiful and so true. Like, we do just want to be understood. Everything we do, whether it's through fear motivation or through wanting to be loved, whatever it is, we just want those basic things.
When people get you, that's massive. Like, or you get yourself, then you go through a period of reinvention and growth.
And connection is one of the things that's become most important to me as a theme, because one of my things is you have to connect with yourself, and know, this is where the values comes in again, of actually, because when I so fast forward a little bit with the mental health thing, so the biggest crash for me came when I was 25. I was working as a manager in a coffee shop, so my background is hospitality management, and I was a young manager, had a lot of responsibility, loved my job but also hated it. It was like the most abusive relationship I've ever had. But I really wanted to do well, and my body kind of broke effectively. I had to go to hospital, had an operation, and it was during the time of recovery that I realised, God, I'm so unhappy with my life. And I noticed, like, every new year I was reviewing my year and I was like, this year was worse than last year, this year was worse than last year, and it kept going on. And I was like, where does it stop? So when I was 25, I was like, it was a legitimate quarter life crisis. I just heard that phrase and I was like, that's exactly what I feel. And I had a bit of a panic attack. I dumped my boyfriend very quickly at the time, poor guy. Right decision, definitely, but I did it in the completely wrong way. And I decided, like, I need to change my job, I need to change a lot of stuff. So it started this kind of line of self-inquiry, I guess, where I was like, okay, rather than just going with the tide and just doing a job and getting promoted and doing what other people want me to do, what do I actually fucking want?
You got in touch with your values, I suppose, and what was important to you.
Yeah, and I didn't realise that's what I was doing at the time, but I was just trying to excavate a little bit and just figure out, what do I actually want? What do I like about my job? What do I not like about my job? Because there were parts that I really loved and really enjoyed, but I just felt very intrinsically that it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. So I just started tapping into that kind of intuitive side of myself and being like, right, what do I feel tugged towards and what do I feel like I want to get away from, and just trying to respond to that.
And as you were making sense of this all, like, I know you did something quite courageous. I did a blog once, and that kick-started all talk about it, mate.
Yeah.
And I'm not an actual blogger, but you did a talk, didn't you? Is that right?
So fast forward to 2018, it would have been.
Yeah.
So
you've been working on yourself.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for 6 years. So there's certain periods where, like, big changes happen. And I suppose one of the biggest changes for me was moving to Manchester. Yeah. Because that was 2 years ago, coming up to 2 years ago now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My anniversary is on the 10th of March.
And Manchester welcoming you with a nice rainy day.
Do you know what? I don't even mind the weather.
When you're in here, I wouldn't mind. When you're out there.
No, but I love being outside. I love storms, all the things. Like, give me all the weather. I love the seasons and the changes.
So much you could say about that and your own feelings.
Deep.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Give me a season change anyway. So when I moved to Manchester, that was like a real intuitive hit for me. I knew I needed to get out of Bristol. I'd lived there all my life. Even when I went to uni, I lived at home and just like, I felt very hemmed in, and one of my biggest values is freedom, and I need to explore. I'm a very experiential person. I need to be out discovering things and doing new things. So I knew I needed to get out of Bristol. I was working in interior design at the time in a marketing faculty or capacity, I should say. So I wanted to kind of do the same job but move up here because I've been made redundant. So I was like, good excuse, I'll leave. Did a bit of research around creative industries, and Manchester came up as a suggestion. So I kind of visited, stayed in the hostel for a bit, went out and did like
amazing
viewings and stuff. But from the first time I visited, I was like, I like the vibe here. I just really
the same pace, like
like the speed of change kind of suited me, and the people were all really nice. Like wherever I went, people were chatting and just like friendly and stuff.
Maybe it's just you. Like
it could just be. I
don't know. People said this German guy said this to me last week. Anyway, going off on a tangent, he said everyone in Manchester is friendly, and I was like, not to me. Maybe it's just my face.
There is always a very definite culture in different cities that you go to, for sure. But I think also because I was in a very open-minded, receptive state, I would have invited more kindness and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of like that law of attraction thing of like what you put out, you get back.
I do agree with that as well.
Yeah, it's true. It's definitely true, but it has to be married with action. I think a lot of people who go for law of attraction, like if I just think my life better, it'll automatically become better. It's like no, there's real world application to it. so yeah, that was a big step for me moving away because I didn't know anybody and I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a job when I moved. All these kind of things. That's brave. Thanks. I don't really consider it brave because I wasn't scared.
Well, that's even better, I suppose, isn't it? Like you just think, this is what I need to go for. I need to go through this process.
But that's it. If you know what's really important to you and your reason why you're doing something. Even if you're taking a leap of faith, I don't consider that very risky. I don't consider that very scary. It's only when you sort of go through the motions and you're like, oh shit, admin, what do I do? That's when it starts getting scary for me because I don't like doing anything.
Was there a moment though when the penny dropped and you thought, right, I've got my inspiration, or this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to be honest about what I've been through? Was there like a moment of...
There were a couple of kind of clarity moments, and I'm not going to be all cliche about it. You're like, oh my god, this is my come to Jesus moment or anything like that. But I think in your life you have a series of very subtle, like light bulbs going off or waking up moments. You have, but they're subtle usually. You have to be paying attention. So I do a lot of reflection and stuff where I can be like, oh my god, I've just realised something, and I kind of mark it in my brain or I've written down, and I'll be like, this is a real moment. So you have to keep track sometimes because they'll be subtle.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of markers pointing me in the direction that I've now come to with my
Yeah.
business and my life and stuff. But I had to go through a series of things for those dots to line up, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with regards to the talk that I did, it was... So I love TED Talks, and that was the reason that I did... Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They were a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And when I went on this public speaking course, again, a bit of an intuitive thing, I just decided to go. And I was looking at TED Talks for inspiration, and my favourite TED Talks are really, really heavy subjects that are handled in a very approachable way that makes it normalised. And you really like the speaker, you really emotionally engage with their story. And there's normally a bit of a hero's journey as well. They take you down into the depths of the dark night of the soul almost, and then they come back up the other side, and then there's like a really simple message at the end of it. So I was like, I kind of want to copy that trajectory, because the course itself I found really easy. I didn't have a problem standing in front of the group. Yeah. And other people were really challenging themselves. Like a lot of people actually, English was their second language.
Wow.
And they were incredible. They were so brave, and like they really struggled to have that confidence in their English to say, I'll be comfortable delivering this. A lot of people had problems with their accent and stuff, and over the course they grew this confidence, and I was like, they're going on this real transformational journey, and I'm not pushing myself. I'm just standing up there going, oh, let's talk about community and fun fluffy subjects, blah blah blah, and making people laugh. I wasn't pushing myself. So about a week before the talk, I planned this talk out, and I was having like a wobble about it. I had this really vivid dream where I was steering a boat, metaphor for life. I was captaining of a boat. I'd just been abandoned by the captain, and he was like, you do it, you'll figure it out. And a storm hit, I got washed overboard, and then I just remember struggling through the water for ages, so I call it dark water, this is my metaphor. Yeah. And I was struggling for ages, and I was exhausted, and I was like, shit, I need to decide now. Do I keep struggling and try and get back to the boat, which is scary? Like, I have a bit of a phobia of dark water in real life. Like deep water. And so I felt visceral fear in this dream. Yeah,
of course.
And I was like, do I try and struggle to get back to this boat, or do I just let myself drown? And for me, that's your face. It's like, oh, very great. It's the suicide metaphor. It's not a case of like wanting to die. It's just a rock and a hard place. Like, that's horrible. That's horrible. What am I going to do? And you have to decide. And if you're so emotionally exhausted and fatigued and scared, a lot of people choose suicide in a kind of very passive way, because they're just like, what else can I possibly do?
They just can't fight it anymore.
And you don't have anything left to give. And sometimes it's the only act of self-compassion or self-care people give themselves for a really long time.
And that was the talk. That would have been a good talk.
Basically, I was describing the metaphor of dark. I called it dark water, I think. And I said, like, I felt suicidal, and it was terrifying. I've never been so scared in my life, and I still don't think I've topped it. Wow. But it was one of those moments. I woke up the next morning, and I was like, okay, fine, I get the hint. I need to do that talk. And it was a real, like, I knew it was going to be a moment. It wasn't necessarily going to be transformational for me, but I was like, that could really help someone in that room, so that's what I'm going to do. And it was really good. It was really well received, and some of the people afterwards came up and said, like, I've been in the dark water too, I know how you feel. I was like, oh my god.
It's when other people connect with you, like with the men's groups that I run, and then which I'm launching soon. Once you say a story, it could be a metaphor or something like that, and someone else then gives you a nod and be like, that really resonates with what Mike just said. And then that's the best moment, because it's like you could be completely different views on lots of different things, but when you've got that connection, even if it's someone's 60 and someone's 20, I just think like making connections, similarities, and exploring differences, but also finding similarities.
This is it, and like when we distill our humanity down, like I said earlier about wanting to be seen and understood, like we have so much more in common than different. We kind of, the themes running through us all are the same, but the expression of those themes is slightly different. It's like if you look at films, they sometimes say there's only 5 story types or 7 story types, isn't it? It's like the hero's journey and the Cinderella story, those kind of things. There's basic patterns that we all follow, and it's because we're just human, and we just want to be accepted in a social group. We want to find kind of self-actualization in some way. We want to find things that are true to us and that speak to us and that we really deeply care about. A lot of us don't realise all these things because they play out on a psychological level, on a very, on a buried subconscious level. But the more you kind of dig into it and the more research you do and stuff, like I've been obviously actively exploring this for 6 years, but in my early teenage years, I knew something wasn't right. I knew I wasn't happy in my own mind. I didn't know why, but it's only through learning more about the world and being curious about yourself as well, so that you can kind of figure these things out. And a lot of people are unhappy in their lives, and a lot of people want to change, but change is scary. So they tell themselves they're not scared, and they're happy in a mediocre relationship, and they're happy in their shitty job, and they've got a holiday to look forward to. So keep your head down. It's like being in the Matrix.
It's like the scariest thing in the world, because it you know, you'd accept a bad situation rather than do something about it.
Yeah.
Because you feel like showing the courage to do something about it is more scary than...
Of course it is.
But, like, I don't, you know, we talk about a lot of things on podcasts. I know you do on yours. I don't want listeners to think, like, this is too much to take in. Like, there's just little bits. I listen to those podcasts, and, like, it could be 50 minutes of something, but there's bam, something in the 30-second segment.
Yeah.
It's like reading a book. Like, I don't read every word and be like, I'm going to use this forever.
Yeah.
I'll take a paragraph and it'll really hit me.
This is it, because like not everyone is going to resonate with everything we've said today, because we are going a bit meta with it all. And like, I'm a deep thinker. This is partly why I'm good at my coaching and stuff that I do as well, because I will go deep on topics, and some people really need that and want it. Some people are quite early on in the process of like personal development, or not even that. Maybe they're just unhappy and they just want to make a little tweak, a little change. Yeah. And you'll find different content that speaks to you at those different times. So for me, when I was off sick and figuring out, actually I have mental health issues, the reason TED Talks was so important for me was that's what I was watching on YouTube in my bedroom on my own, crying. And I was like, oh my God, so many of these speakers, these incredible people at the top of their field, they felt suicidal. What the fuck? And I'd never heard someone express it so kind of concisely and as matter of fact as that. They were like, it got to a point where I wanted to take my own life. And then on to the next bit of like the recovery and stuff. And I was like, fucking hell.
And it does get better, and you can see
all of these people had a really similar story, or people were depressed, or they'd just gone bankrupt. Like, some kind of trauma is always there.
I think you need to, I do also feel like you need to go through some kind of hardship.
Of course you do.
Because how do you know you're going to come out the other side and learn? It's like, you know, getting over these difficulties. But yeah, like, I think well-being in the workplace, though, it doesn't have to be a black and white from well-being in general. So the idea of well-being, like, let's cut through the bullshit. There's a lot of people who throw out well-being, and again, I'm rolling my eyes here, because I'm like, they just use the word well-being, and like, oh, do some yoga and we'll have a meditation or whatever. But like, knowing yourself better and making a change in your own life and having that. It's the core of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's a huge, like, really complex subject of well-being. There's different areas to it. I think people kind of automatically go to physical well-being, because that's what we have the most data around. But, you know, I'm talking about things like intuition and stuff here. You know, for me, psychological well-being and your emotional well-being runs so deep. And for me, I'm quite like a spiritual person now, and there are very deep factors at play for me, but I don't talk about that in my training because it's too much for a lot of people. Like you're saying, this is like getting very big.
But I like that, but like I'm also thinking about how to package that for people as well.
Yeah, because it would distance it for some people, but other people are genuinely really interested, because I think spirituality is, again, that's one of those subjects that's recently kind of coming to the forefront, again, through the likes of social media and people kind of publicising their genuine views for free and getting it out there and stuff.
Do a podcast about spirituality.
I will do. I will do, definitely one time, definitely. But yeah, going back to what you're saying about tick box exercises and stuff, because it's not a legal requirement yet for people to invest in well-being, it's still kind of optional at this point. So you've got the people I love working with are the ones who have a real emotional attachment to this topic, and they're like, we need it because a friend of mine has gone through this, or I've gone through something, I understand the value of it. Some people do see it as a tick box exercise, but like, I don't mind that, because I can package it however they want to get me in the door, because I know I can help people. So if a company is saying, we're just getting you in because we need to tick a box and we need to be seen to be doing something, fine, I'll go to tick that box for you. But while I'm there, what I'm doing is actually talking to people in a way that they need to be spoken to.
Yeah, that's really important.
Well, because they're the ones that are going to benefit from it. It's not about, like, I don't care who the gatekeeper is. I'll say what I need
management.
to say.
I often think, like, I'm using schools as an example. To get teachers to be more productive, you have to kind of take management away and actually find out what the concerns are. Because if you've got a boss around you who's going to hammer you afterwards for saying something, speaking out of line, that's happened to me before. But I suppose this is a good way to kind of get into what's the next steps for you, what's coming up. So you've got your events, you've got your podcast, you're a well-being champion consultant. Use I don't know if they're the right words. What's the next venture? Do you know what? I just need to calm down a bit. No, don't. For the purpose of this last 5 minutes, don't calm down.
I just need to, because like you said, the last year and a half alone. Like, I got the podcast, and then I did a book, and a bit of a book. I was in a collaboration, and the event started, and all these different things. I'm just so passionate about the subject. Like, I just love working with people and finding out more. And so I just want to keep doing what I'm doing at the moment. I want to keep doing the podcast. I want to keep doing the community events. I want to keep doing the corporate. The corporate arm needs to stabilise, to be honest, because cash flow goes up and down like a bloody boat in a storm, doesn't it? Peaks and troughs, peaks and troughs. So I just want to, realistically, my business brain is switching on now and going like, oh, you need sales every month to be able to scale and to be able to keep things going. So that has to be my focus at the moment, because I have been kind of, I think being on accelerator schemes and stuff, sometimes you're kind of, your brain is so far open that you take on all the ideas of everyone around you. And it's, what I've discovered is because I'm so big picture focused and I'm so imaginative and all the rest of it and so inspired by what I'm doing, I run off on all these different directions. So I actually need someone to rein me in a bit and be like, can we just focus on the next step and the next step?
You make me want to sign up now.
Honestly, I really recommend it. Applications are open until the end of February, not Spawn. They should give me commission though, seriously.
Well, you are, and Dark Coffee are a friend of Talk About It, Mate. I think it's great for networking to have organisations and people who you know are doing good work and you can always contact. And like I don't offer corporate services right now, maybe in a couple of years' time.
I'm sure you will.
But if someone approached me next week and I wouldn't have time to, I'd say, but to do know somebody. Because like, not everybody who offers these kind of things have I met, or do I think they're real or genuine or authentic. And like I can cut through that. And have a very good bullshit filter. There you go. So if you think you've also got a good bullshit filter, then Alice would be
That's the thing, like so many of us are kind of on the same wavelength, and like I'm always happy to promote you. Like how many people have I promoted on here today? 7, I don't know. But I will always support people that are doing good work, because we need to help each other out. Collaboration is key, and it's a big mission. Like we're trying to help people come to terms with like difficult situations and trying to have a healthier relationship with their mental health. It's a really big fucking mission, and that's before we even talk about the suicide rate. Like if you're trying to unpick suicide and figure out the reasons why and try and avert it, it's a really big goal. Like I can't do that on my own.
Have you thought about doing counselling, like being a counsellor?
Do you know what puts me off?
Or working in something?
I'll tell you this, because I think it might be important for you to hear. The thing that puts me off about counselling is the accreditation side of it. Because what I realised early on, I talk about imposter syndrome quite a lot on my podcast.
I get it so badly.
Of course, and a lot of us do. But one of the things is, while you're pissing about, going, I need this qualification, I need this qualification, blah, 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 there are so many people you're not helping in the meantime. And I'm not saying pretend you're a surgeon and operate on someone tomorrow, but if you have experiential that's obvious, experiential knowledge, and if you have a delivery style and you have skills that you can directly apply tomorrow, you don't need to tick that box for yourself. You don't need to say, I need to be accredited in this one area in order to help people. I'm not saying don't be a counsellor.
But you are speaking to me a lot there. I'm just doing it for my own peace of mind. But the funny, because I do talk about it, mate, but my counselling stuff, eventually they'll come together under the same umbrella. But I'm keeping that separate. I'm keeping that for me, for Michael Richard to become a counsellor.
And it might be a journey that you need to go through, so I'm not saying at all don't do it. But I think
I agree with the going for it element. If you're good enough, go for it. What's stopping you? Like I could see clients now, I think.
Definitely could.
I mean, I'm doing my counselling course and I'm doing practice, but like a lot of people who I work with in the men's groups and stuff, like I don't worry about signposting or if there is a problem, because I feel that like I am capable of having that time with them if they need it.
Of course. And you help people every day, and I'm sure people come to you with really serious issues, and like you resonate with them in a way that no one else will. And the thing is, like, there could be 100 of us let's just say there's 100 of us in here all doing kind of counselling services to whatever extent. We could all be saying the exact same message, but different people will resonate with different ones of us. Me and you can be using exactly the same words, and someone will listen to you and hear you. They won't hear me, because they'll like your style and they won't like mine, and vice versa. So it doesn't matter.
Be unapologetically you.
Absolutely.
I think that's what you're getting at.
Absolutely. I really use the word unapologetically more and more now, because the more you stand in your own truth, oh god, that is so gaudy.
No, but
the more
I know what you mean.
Use your own experience and actually talk from a place of like, this is what I know, this is who I can help, this is what I'm about, you will attract the right people to you. And I'm not a qualified counsellor, I'm not a qualified this, that and the other, I'm not a psychologist, all these things. People ask me like, so what degree have you got? I've got a degree in creative writing and media communications, which
you're using quite a lot,
is now really relevant, but it didn't make any sense at the time. I was just following my curiosity and my skill set. But there are people that I'm helping every day now.
Yes.
Just through making it up as I go.
You've helped me set up Audacity.
There you go.
Plug.
Like, I've helped you podcast because I know how to podcast because I've done it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of these bullshit structures of saying qualifications are the only way you can help people.
And it stops people from doing things because it makes people spend too long prepping the behind the scenes and not actually jumping in and doing it.
Exactly. And of course it's fear, and there's so many things to unpick in that. Like, there's fear and there's insecurity, and people don't want to be seen as a fraud, and people think that, and people convince themselves to do more harm than good. It's like, I don't know how many lives I could have helped save because I've said something that made someone think differently. I don't know what that ripple effect's going to be, but I just know intrinsically, and from what people have told me as well, that I'm doing more good than harm, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Wow, like this has really energised me. Like I think you'll say, when I arrived, I was a bit muddled, and then I'm having breakfast, and I was a bit like, but now I'm just like, my heart is going, and like I feel like it's really important. Yeah, exactly, like because that's the kind of, I when I hear people speak in events or things, that when people are not ranty but passionate, and that comes through.
I am ranty some days, sorry.
But I am too. But like I've been in the past made to feel bad for that.
Yeah.
And no, don't start if you're passionate about something, like, and you've got a good story to tell. That's what we're here for. That's what podcasts are here for as well. So I want to say, really enjoyed this because it's been a long time since I've done it, and it's for starting season 2. I think this is great.
Season 2, baby.
Tune in, listen up for some different kinds of podcasts, and maybe some new blood coming into the podcast. But if people want to follow you, Alice, how can they find you?
I'm really easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn like every day, so get me on LinkedIn. Sign up to the newsletter on Dark Coffee if you like what we're doing. We do a monthly newsletter. We do events in the community. You can follow the Dark Coffee page on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Alice Lyons Wellbeing and Dark Coffee Wellbeing. But honestly, just get me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest thing to do. Or just send me an email. I'm
going to end by asking you, when I've set up my men's groups, eventually I think we want to get people come in, do a little speak. Like a talk, because even though it's a men's group, but what you said about the suicidal ideation, I think you're the best person I know in my network to talk about that.
Yeah, if they're comfortable, ask them, make sure they're happy.
Obviously that would be something that it would take a few months down the line, but getting somebody in to share their story, and I know I'm getting a reputation now as somebody who just works in men's mental health, and I want to also reiterate that's not the case. It's just that there's been a specific need for men's mental.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people like you will be great to connect with in the future. So have a great day.
Thank you
for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.